Biros from Food Safety Tech here at the Supply Chain Vulnerabilities Conference, and here with Gary Nowacki of TraceGains. And Gary, you made a presentation yesterday where some of your customers from Burner Foods were here talking about the supply chain vulnerabilities, but then your company provided a solution, a technology solution, which helped them manage that. I was wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, what we do is we do sort of a comprehensive quality solution for food companies that starts upstream with the suppliers and that continues with all the individual shipments that are coming in from the suppliers of the food ingredients, and then continues once our customers get that in-house. They can do various QA testing and analysis. They can report problems that they might have with the product within the four walls, whether it's maybe a problem that they identify only when they get to the plant floor, and then they can even report any downstream feedback from their customers or consumers and link that back to supplier ingredients if in fact the supplier ingredients cause the problem.
The push typically comes from the food company in terms of managing their suppliers. But can you talk a little bit about their vendors and the acceptance level? What has been the supplier's standpoint once they're exposed to this type of technology? Have there been any resistance or acceptance, and what typically is the outcome?
It's a great question, and it's an important consideration for implementing a system like this because margins in the food industry are low. There are certainly big players in the food industry who can really exercise tremendous leverage over their suppliers. You know, McDonald's, Walmart, Kroger, so on. But if you're not a McDonald's or a Walmart, and you're a small or medium-sized food company, or even maybe a pretty good-sized one, you can't always just crack the whip and have your suppliers do everything that you want them to do. Because margins are low, the suppliers may come back and say, you know, we can't do that based on the price point. We're providing this food ingredient to you. So what we found is important is to onboard this information from the suppliers and to do that as smoothly and as seamlessly as possible, and not put any undue burden on the suppliers, because if you put burden on the suppliers, if you put additional costs on the suppliers, that's when you get pushback. So the key for us has been developing technology that allows this information to flow from the suppliers as seamlessly as possible and with as little cost or burden as possible.
Mm-hmm. Would it be safe to say that this is can be looked at as an investment, not just in improving safety, but you had also talked about the low margins in the food industry. Burner talked a little bit about improving their just-in-time inventory. So can you expand a little bit that this is just potentially a way for actually companies not to look at this as a cost center as much as perhaps an investment in seeing a financial gain?
Yeah, Burner, we have many customers, but yesterday Burner spoke here at the conference, and they pointed to very specific benefits they got from this. One of the benefits is that with TraceGains they get early warning of any problems of supplier lots coming in. And because they get that early warning now, they've actually been able to reduce their inventory levels because they need less buffer stock of inventory, because these shocks and these unusual events happen much less frequently now for Burner. So they've been able to cut inventory. So that goes right to the bottom line. That's a cash savings to Burner, that they don't have to carry as much inventory. The other thing that Burner benefited is that they went from SQF level 2 to level 3. So now when Burner sells to their customers, that's a much higher level of certification. Sure. That's a seal of approval that gives Burner perhaps something a little bit more competitive. Now, I don't know how Burner prices their product or the contracts they have with their customers, but I believe that if they're out selling to a new customer or renewing a contract, and Burner has SQF level 3 and all the things behind that, and maybe some of their competitors don't, is Burner able to charge more for their product? Maybe, but maybe not, but maybe they win the business because it's competitive factor. So again, it drops to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. What is the time period when someone, I mean, this is cloud-based solution, right? Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that it's not much on the front end that they need to do from their IT department, mm-hmm. but can you elaborate on the time frame when they say, yeah, we're in, we want this, mm-hmm. to it actually functioning and benefiting them? How long a time frame is that?
Yeah, a couple of points. First of all, TraceGains is designed to be a completely standalone solution. So many of our customers have not had to work with their IT departments to do anything to support this solution. Now, some customers, and Burner is an example, have decided that they do want to integrate TraceGains with their ERP system. And so Burner did that, but we have something that makes that go easily and rapidly, which is that we have web services technology to integrate TraceGains to ERP systems, to LIMS systems, to receiving systems, whatever it is that the customers want to integrate that to. But again, many of our customers run TraceGains completely standalone and have not ever had to get their IT group involved in the deployment. In terms of the time frame, our standard implementation template is a 5-week plan. And so we work with each customer to take that plan and then to figure out how they want to deploy TraceGains. And it's really up to them. They can deploy it in 5 weeks. We do have customers, and Burner's a good example, where they said, well, we want to take a more conservative approach. What we want to do is we want to take the 20% of our suppliers who give us 80% of key materials and who have 80% of our risk and 80% of our cost tied up. We want to take those and get those going first. So that was the approach Burner took. So they did that rapidly, and then at their leisure, they chipped away at their minor suppliers.
Talk a little bit about the buy-in from their suppliers. Was there any initial pushback? And if so, how did they work around that? And then in addition to that, has there been a value proposition for those suppliers? Have they benefited from being part of all this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's up to our customers to choose how they want to leverage TraceGains with their suppliers. So you could go very lightly with TraceGains as an example, and you could just take the supplier information in and not even tell the suppliers that you're feeding that information into TraceGains. So you could take the lightest approach imaginable, where the suppliers have to change nothing, do nothing differently, no cost, no burden. You can also think of a spectrum where you can now leverage a tool like TraceGains to improve your relationship with your supplier. And so with their 20% critical suppliers, Burner has said, you know, we do want to actively engage you on very specific quality issues that matter to us. And we are going to use TraceGains as a way to collaborate with you and as a way to ensure that you're meeting our standards and our requirements and our specifications.
Great.
So it's really up to our customers. And you know, we've had some customers who've deployed to almost all their suppliers on a light touch basis. We've had some customers like Burner who have taken a more aggressive stance with their suppliers and said, look, we're going to use this system to monitor and to measure you on a more instant basis.
Right. Well, Gary, listen, thanks very much. I mean, it's one thing for a conference like this to point out the vulnerabilities. It's another thing then to provide them with solutions, and we're really glad that you're part of that solution. Thanks.
Thank you.